I want to ask you something before this story starts. Think about the best memory you have of your father or mother. Is it something impressive they achieved? Or is it something completely ordinary they did, just for you, on an unremarkable day? Hold that thought. Because this story is about what we remember and what we forget, and the difference between the two. There are people in this world who treat work the way other people treat breathing. Constantly, automatically, without question. Our story is about one such man. His name was Daniel. Daniel was good at his job. Very good. The kind of good that gets noticed, the kind of good that gets rewarded. He arrived first every morning. He left last every evening. He answered emails at midnight and calls on Sunday and messages on Christmas morning, because that was simply who he was. He was not unhappy. He wants to make that clear. He genuinely loved what he did. He loved the problems and the solutions and the rhythm of a productive day. He loved the feeling of crossing the last item off a very long list. He had a wife named Sarah. He had a son named Joel. He had a house in a quiet neighborhood with a garden he had never found time to tend. And he had a record he was genuinely proud of. In 22 years of working at the same company, Daniel had never taken a single day off. Not a sick day, not a personal day, not a mental health day. Not even the afternoon his back seized up so badly he had to hold the wall to walk. He went in anyway, because that was who he was. On his 20th anniversary at the company, they gave him a framed certificate. It said, "In recognition of 20 years of outstanding dedication and commitment." It had the company logo at the top and the CEO's signature at the bottom. Daniel hung it on the wall of his home office. He looked at it sometimes when he was working late and felt something he could only describe as satisfaction. His wife Sarah looked at it once, and she went back to the kitchen without saying anything. Joel was 14 when the certificate went up. He looked at it for a long time. Then he asked his father a question that Daniel answered without really hearing. "Dad," he said, "why does the company get to say they're proud of you? You work for them." Daniel laughed and ruffled his son's hair and went back to his laptop. He did not think about that question again for 8 years. Because the truth was, and Daniel would not have admitted this to anyone, the certificate mattered to him more than he could explain. Not because of what it said, but because of what it meant to him. It meant he had not wasted his time. It meant his sacrifice had been recognized. It meant that all the evenings he had not been home for dinner, and all the weekends he had spent at his desk, and all the moments he had missed, they had added up to something. Something worth hanging on a wall. Joel grew up the way children grow up, when a parent is always working. Quietly, independently, with a particular self-sufficiency that looked like maturity and felt like loneliness. He learned to make his own breakfast at 7. He learned to sign his own permission slips at 9. He learned to sit with his own problems at 11. Because by the time Dad was free to talk, the moment had always passed. He did not resent his father. That is important to say clearly. Joel loved Daniel in the deep, uncomplicated way that children love parents, regardless of what those parents do or do not do. But there was a space in Joel's childhood where a father was supposed to be. Not a perfect father, not an impressive father, just a present one. Sarah tried to fill that space as best she could. She was at every school play and every sports day and every parents' evening. She was the one Joel came to at midnight when something was wrong. She never complained to Daniel about this. She had tried in the early years and found that it did not change anything. So she stopped trying and simply did what needed to be done. And the years moved. The way years move when nobody is watching them carefully enough. Joel finished school, started university, got his first job, got his own apartment. Daniel was proud. He said so at every milestone. He attended when he could. He called when he remembered. And the space that had been in Joel's childhood simply became the shape of their relationship.
It happened on a Wednesday morning in March. Daniel was at his desk at 7:15, as always, coffee going cold beside him, as always, 3 screens open, as always. And then there was something happened that had never happened before. His chest tightened. Not dramatically, not like the movies, just a pressure, then a heaviness. Then his left arm felt strange in a way he could not describe. He stood up, sat back down. He tried to keep typing. Then he was on the floor, and his colleagues were shouting, and someone was calling an ambulance. He did not lose consciousness. He was aware of everything. He was aware of his colleagues' faces. He was aware of the ceiling tiles. He was aware of his phone buzzing on his desk above him with an email he would never answer. And he was aware, with a clarity that only the floor of an office can give you, that he had spent 22 years in this building. 22 years. He was in hospital for 9 days. His heart was okay. A warning, the doctor said. A serious one, but a warning. Sarah came every day. She brought his favorite food and sat beside him and held his hand and did not say, "I told you so," which he appreciated more than he could express. Joel came on the 3rd day. He sat in the chair beside the bed, and they talked about ordinary things for a while. The hospital food, the nurses, the weather outside the window. And then there was a silence. And into that silence, Joel said something. "Dad, do you know what I remember most about my childhood?" Daniel said no. Joel said, "I remember one Saturday. I must have been about 8. You stayed home because you had a cold. You were too sick to go into the office for the first and only time I can remember. And we sat at the kitchen table all afternoon and played cards. Just the 2 of us. You taught me 3 different games. You let me win the last one and pretended you did not let me win. But I knew. We ate cereal for dinner because Mom was out and neither of us could be bothered to cook properly. And it was the best day of my life, Dad. The best day of my life." Daniel looked at his son for a long time. Then he looked at the wall across from his bed. There was no certificate on that wall. Daniel went back to work 6 weeks later. He went back different. Not dramatically different, not in a way that made people at the office comment or ask what had happened to him. Just different in the way that matters. Quietly. On the inside. He started taking Saturdays off. Not every Saturday, but most of them. He started leaving at 5:30 when the day allowed it. He started answering his phone when Joel called,
even if he was in the middle of something. He started playing cards again, at the kitchen table, with Sarah first, then when Joel visited home, then with Joel's own children when they eventually arrived. He never took the certificate off the wall, but he stopped looking at it. And on his last day at the company before retirement, they gave him another certificate. Longer service this time. More signatures. He thanked them. He shook hands. He drove home. And that evening, Joel called. Not because it was a special occasion, just because. They talked for an hour and a half about nothing important. A film Joel had seen, a restaurant Sarah wanted to try, a card game Joel had taught his own son, who had beaten him 3 times in a row. Daniel laughed until his eyes watered.
Here is what this story holds for us today. The people who love you are not keeping score of your achievements. They are not waiting for your promotions or your certificates or the moment you finally become impressive enough to deserve their admiration. They are waiting for a Saturday afternoon, for a card game, for cereal eaten for dinner because neither of you could be bothered. They are waiting for you to simply be there. Not performing, not achieving, not working toward anything at all. Just there. Present. Ordinary. Theirs. The people who need you most are not watching your greatest moments. They are treasuring your smallest ones. You do not have to be impressive to be irreplaceable. You just have to show up. Thank you for being here today. If this story found you at the right moment, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below with one word that describes what you have been putting before the people who matter most. I read every single one. Subscribe to Tale Studio Stories for a new wisdom tale every week. Stories that slow you down and remind you what actually matters. Until next time, take the Saturday off.